All right, welcome back to the Story Dads. Today we're talking about the Hunchback of Notre Dame. We're going to talk about some of the themes, the characters, what they represent. We're going to talk about the polarities between law and chaos and good and evil. Those just happen to make a cross, and this just happens to entirely take place in a church. Talking about the idea of playing with fiction within the context of a Judeo-Christian mythology, which this is explicitly that. And so, coming along for the ride, and thanks for checking out Story Dads. Today, we're talking about The Hunchback of Notre Dame. We're not talking about the novel by Victor Hugo. We're not talking about the 1939 version. We're not talking about the 1956 version. We're not talking about 1923 with Lon Chaney. So this movie's been made quite a few times.
The story's been retold.
Yeah. We're talking about the Disney film from 1996. Now, I remember seeing this in the theaters. Do you remember that?
Yeah, I didn't. So this was like, I remember seeing Lion King in the theaters. I remember seeing Aladdin in the theaters. And that's when I remember seeing Pocahontas in the theaters. And then Hercules Hunchback kind of lost interest around then. It would have been around like 8 or 9. So it would have been kind of a sweet spot for it. But for whatever reason, this one, I don't remember being all that interested in it. When it was coming out.
Well, I'll tell you what, I don't think it got a whole lot of love.
Yeah.
And then it also it's funny, it's rated G.
Yeah.
And this one's dark, man.
It's like dark.
This has got to be one of the darkest rated G kids movies I can think of.
Yeah. I was rewatching it with, because I saw it a long time ago. And really like first serious watch, I'd say, like a week ago with my kids and with Jill, and there were some parts they were both like my wife was upset about. She can easily get upset around like bullying and someone getting picked on, and it's brutal in this. And Frollo is one of the most vile villains in all of Disney.
Yeah,
which is interesting.
A bad guy, and what's interesting, and I think we're going to get into that. One of the things you want to talk about is these characters, what they represent, where they are on sort of like various axes of what they represent.
Yeah.
And he is like lewd and lustful.
Yeah.
It's like explicit, you know?
Yeah.
He's like visually fantasizing in the movie.
Yeah.
And like it doesn't pull back on that nature of his, like what's wrong with him.
Like sadistic, like
yeah.
Very much so, in a way that kind of strikes you for a rated G movie.
Yeah. And now it is also appropriate because this novel is also super dark.
Sure.
And really brutal. And and I think like appropriately so.
Yeah.
And so even as dark as this Disney version is, it is so much less dark than the original story that they are essentially unrelated.
Right.
Like this story is as different from Victor Hugo's story as Hercules is from the actual myth of Hercules.
Sure.
Where really, again, it's Disney stepping into a mythology, and in this case, a novel, and just kind of playing jazz with it and pulling archetypes out and then reforming them in a way that's that conforms to the hero's journey and the redemptive arc and all that.
Yeah.
Those things are not as present in the original book. Everyone dies in the original book.
Okay. So it's going full on Shakespearean tragedy version.
Frollo dies, she dies, Phoebus dies, and then ultimately at the end you find out, also the Hunchback died tragically, like of grief.
Okay, got it. Okay.
So no spoilers. The book's a couple centuries old now. If you didn't read in high school, then pick it up and read it. And you didn't read it in high school. If you're watching this, I almost promise. So the Disney picture.
Yep.
It plays in the mythology the same way Hercules played in Greek mythology.
Right.
And one of the
So when you say
yeah,
the mythology, you're talking the explicitly Christian mythology in the time of Notre Dame, Paris, France. When is this set? It's not
yeah,
Revolutionary period.
no, it's set in 1482.
Okay, yeah. So far before Revolutionary period.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I wanted to say something about the idea of playing in, the Christian framework
Yeah.
as a mythology to play within.
Right.
And so it's interesting because, like for you and I, we believe, and much mythology is just real or more real than reality, or, and that's something that could be unpacked for a long time in another conversation. But, so for you and I, the mythology is our reality. But that was also true of Greeks when they were coming up with the Hercules story, is that that was how they thought the universe was constructed. And so in some ways, somebody's right. Like somebody out there is correct that their mythology is actually the reality of the universe and the world, whether it's a materialist mythology, whether your saints are scientists, or whether your saints are spiritual figures. Someone's correct. But all the rest of us are playing in this sort of area where we go, well, this is how I think the universe is constructed. What could happen in this world?
Yeah, and so as you have a story like this that you said kind of takes it and plays jazz with it, I view it as an exploration of these ideas and how does this work and how does this work and what's resonating, what's connecting of what I know and experience to be true. And I think that when we tell stories and when we engage with stories like this, that is what we're doing.
Yeah, and I think the tensions that are particularly evident in the Christian mythology, the tensions that often come up and sort of become the loudest, are the tensions between, and I'm going to use some Dungeons and Dragons terminology here to help us out.
Do it.
The tension between like the law, and so in the Christian mythos, it would be law and grace, or the word and the spirit. And in Dungeons and Dragons, you call it lawful or chaotic, right? And then also the tension between like good and evil.
Okay. Yeah.
Right? So
lawful and chaotic good, lawful, chaotic evil.
Well, but see, now you have a grid, right? So you can create these permutations. And so we see with Frollo, for example, and this plays out in Les Miserables too. So this was a major theme for Victor Hugo.
Yeah.
Just in general, is the law, if we're on one axis here, like the law is not always good.
Yeah.
Just because you obey the law does not mean you use it for good. You can use the law to manipulate and control and oppress.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yep.
And so we see the tension and then the chaos is it's not always free and fun. Sometimes chaos can be horribly destructive and awful, or sometimes it's liberating, right? So depending on where you are in these like this interplay.
Sure. I mean, I think of like Esmeralda in this. She is, you could call her chaotic good. Yeah.
Yes.
She is trying to tear down the structures of the society around her. Maybe not tear down, but like trying to push back against them, trying to push against them. Whereas a character not in this story, but I think the ultimate chaotic evil character, I think of Heath Ledger's Joker in the Batman, like just madness for madness sake. I just want to watch the world burn and tear it down.
Yeah.
Whereas Frollo, very much lawful evil, like uses the structure, uses the structure and the law to manipulate, to tyrannize, for his own personal gain.
And when he encounters evil in himself, what he appeals to is the law to convince himself he's not.
He has a song, and his whole song is about that. That's what Hellfire says at the beginning, like, I'm a lawful, righteous man. He's impressed with himself by by how pious he is.
Yeah, and he says, "I've done nothing wrong. You know, this was an accident," and so he conflates being lawful with being good, and so he represents that edifice that can be destructive, can be oppressive, and then we see also with Esmeralda, and again, we're in the movie, we're not talking about the book, but when Phoebus and Quasimodo go into the underground to go look for the gypsies, they encounter chaos, and it's people, you don't know what they look like, their identities are crazy, they're shapeshift constantly, they show up in the skeletons, they're gonna like take them and they're gonna hang them, right? And so there's this place where that's also hell, and so there are hells in both places, whether you're in the lawful or the chaotic.
So the overarching theme, I think of, I mean, they say it like 10 times. It's in the main song. Who is the monster and who is the man? What makes someone a monster? And it's not that they're lawful. It's not that they're chaotic. It's where are they on this good evil axis? I view this as kind of an exploration of that idea.
Well, and even Quasimodo's name being like, you know, unformed or in a state of still being fashioned, like still being styled, is he's figuring out where he fits. And so, it's you know, obviously it's an epithet about his appearance and his, you know, his anatomy, but also where is he in between law and chaos?
That's the most surface level part of it. His appearance, his anatomy, like it's Hunchback, he's deformed, he's up in the tower, like people see that. But then the story is really an exploration on the deeper and deeper levels of that. And he's kind of he's the hero character. He's tempted by all the different things, the structure, the lawfulness of Frollo, that what he should do, what he ought to do. In that way, he's pushed into one camp, and then he's tempted to come out of that place and join the gypsies and embrace the chaos, and that kind of eats him alive too. So would you say that his immutable characteristics are less important than the conduct of his character? Oh, absolutely. Like I think that's like I said, that's the least interesting thing about him.
Right.
If he was just the ugly looking guy. But what's interesting about that is many people will only see that aspect of it.
Right. Yeah.
At the song at the beginning, the Festival of Fools is what he comes down for, and who's going to be the biggest fool. At first they make him king, and then next thing they do, they're ridiculing him and tying him down and throwing stuff at him and mocking him. Like goes from one thing to the next in that instant. That was a part my wife was like, oh my gosh, this is like brutally cruel to this guy.
It gets dark, and it gets where the assumptions that can be made about someone, and also the ownership of that as being the fullness of your identity. It is watching it in our family, you know, because my youngest child has Down syndrome, and so that impacts her anatomy. Whatever her immutable identity markers are, like immediately visible all the way to her cognition and her physical ability. Yeah. And so in some way, like this movie in a weird way has like a really precious place in our family. I don't know. She's only 4. I don't know that she watches it and identifies with anything, but you know, we've talked about in our Cinderella episode about like, it doesn't really matter the difference in immutable characteristics. Whenever you watch a movie, you always think you're the main character.
Right.
I'm Cinderella. I'm Quasimodo. Then when Phoebus is encountered, it's like, I'm Phoebus too. And you know, and then of course, if you're really watching something, I would say correctly, you're going, I'm Frollo. I'm like,
what ways am I Frollo? What ways does that come up with me? Love to explore Frollo a little bit, because we kind of touched on it. Like he is, I think, the most sinister Disney villain I can think of.
Yeah. Well, and in the Christian mythos, who does he most resemble? Like from our canonical book,
Satan, Lucifer.
Well, I mean, he's the high priest. He's the
Pharisee. He's a Pharisee. Yeah. He's a Pharisee. He's impressed with his piousness. he takes Quasimodo in at the beginning of the story after his parents die as an orphan. He's taken him in and found a place for him in the bell tower. Now it's also like, we're going to stick this kid away and never let him be seen. And there is this pseudo compassion to it. And he is furious he's furious at Quasimodo when he tries to leave. So he is pushing him away from society as much as everyone else would, under the idea that like, you'll be rejected, you're too much of a monster, you're too all that, right?
And it's so important to him that is instilled in Quasimodo. Like, it's not enough for him to tell him that. It's like, he needs to hear it from him.
Yeah.
Which is an interesting, it's a kind of a perfect portrayal of tyranny. Is like, it's not enough that I control you. I need you to control yourself in the way that I would control you.
Yeah.
Which is totalitarianism.
Well, because when Esmeralda and Phoebus start saying like, well, what if you leave or what if I couldn't do that? Frollo would be upset, and Frollo's the one who's always looked after me. He's the one who's really cared for me. So like he knows.
So he's coddled by this lawful edifice, right? Like I can't divorce myself, and in this case, Frollo's the state, right? So I can't divorce myself from the state. I can't divorce myself from this paternalistic, oppressive force. That determines my worth, that determines what my experience would be. Should I leave it? Like it's such a holistic control that Frollo like insists on.
And anything that threatens that, which is why he's so contemptuous of the gypsies, like it's like their whole mission is to seek them out, seek out where the what's the place called? The Hall of Miracles, or the something of Miracles?
Yeah, the court of Miracles.
The Court of Miracles. He's trying to find that because like there's a whole group of them, and we'll want to root them out and slit their throats essentially.
And interesting, it's called the Court of Miracles when a miracle inherently upsets order. Like the very nature of a miracle is, again, if you're going to have that law versus chaos, and that's the word versus the spirit. Like the spirit comes in and it never like subverts the word, but it like augments it. It's messy. It messes things up.
So it's an interesting exploration there, because miracles, when I first hear that word, I think of like something good, some healing that happens, something great. And then you get there and it's like, this is the underworld. This is dark.
Yeah. Miracles can be scary.
Well, miracles can be scary, and something happens that doesn't line up with how I understand nature and physics and the way things should go. So it's the unexpected, which can go for good and can go for evil. It's not necessarily one or the other. It's in that realm of chaos, which when they get down to the Court of Miracles, that's what they experience. Yeah. And the gypsies are interesting in this as they're portrayed in this, because I have a friend, and I won't say who, they recently got in trouble at work. I won't say where, because they were telling a story about gypsies. And in the story, it was like a retail scenario, and people had to be really careful because these gypsies were gonna, like they steal things. And so in our society, that's considered like a racial stereotype. But this movie, partially because when it comes out, it's not like at that time period, nobody was really all that upset or concerned or preoccupied with racial stereotype. And also, it's only a stereotype if you view it from the perspective of someone who's not a gypsy. If you view it as a gypsy, like they don't think that what they're doing is bad. What they're doing is what they're doing. It's like my friend he grew up as a missionary in Indonesia. Yeah. And in this tribe in Indonesia, one of the things that they valued culturally was deception. And that if you could trick somebody who were like further up on their social hierarchy. I see.
So when the missionaries were trying to like express, again, our Christian mythos, and they were laying out the characters in the Bible, and it was working. These people were embracing Christianity, but they all kept like naming their children Judas because he hoodwinked the Son of God.
So that was seen as he outwitted him. He was. So
it was heroic, and so if you're viewing it from one standpoint, you're like, oh, that's a saying that the gypsies engage in all this sort of subterfuge and petty larceny and stuff like that. Like
Right.
you're judging them, and it's like, well, no, you're actually judging them. Right now, we're just in this movie, for example, we're just enjoying that that's their culture, and what they do is they come in and they see your rigid, lawful edifice.
Yep.
And they go, hey, man, this thing is full of cracks.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you're abdicate, like there's all kinds of value that you're just leaving out on the table.
Yeah.
And we're going to come and take it.
Right.
Because it's just lying there. Right. And so it's funny, this timing, that I've got a friend who's kind of in trouble, with HR dealing with this story that he told about gypsies, where it's like, well, if you were talking to a gypsy, they'd be like, yeah, because you got to make ends meet. Like,
right.
And of course, it's your job to try and stop us, and it's our job to
that's the game
confound you.
Right.
Like,
right.
We're just part of this whole thing.
We're on this side of society, you're on this side of society, and that's how all this plays. So like Frollo. Okay, so I look at how all the characters are laid out. Frollo is the Judge Frollo. He's in charge of this area of Paris, right? He's the state. He's the tyrant of the state, right? The gypsies, the underworld, the chaos, the commons, that's where they are. And then you get a guy like Phoebus, he's a hero. He's an officer of the state, but he starts breaking the rules in order to do what he sees as good. So you have this character who's kind of in the middle of it, and then you get Quasimodo, who's taken care of by the state, but then he's kind of bouncing around, like you said earlier, and learning from Esmeralda, and then also taking things from Frollo, and he's exploring all the different sides of it.
Yeah, and Phoebus represents that thing that is so fun in like courtroom drama.
Okay,
like A Few Good Men.
Yeah,
or in military dramas. So A Few Good Men is both. It's part of why it's so good, is it has these really rigid structures, and then you get to see how someone is able to play within the structure.
Yeah.
So Phoebus as this character is excellent because he knows all the rules. He plays by all the rules, but he's able to manipulate within them in order to orient them towards good. And Harry Potter is a similar kind of character.
Yeah.
Like watching Harry Potter with my kids and going, have you noticed how polite Harry Potter is to all of his enemies? Like all these people that want him to fail and be destroyed and everything. And like when he tricks, what's his name, Malfoy's dad into giving the sock
Lucius.
to Elf. Yeah,
Lucius,
so he plays within the rules. He calls him sir the whole time. He's polite about it. And Phoebus does the same thing when he's dealing with the guards, when he convinces Esmeralda to take shelter, when he confronts Frollo, until he reaches, there's one point where it reaches enough tyranny.
Yeah. He's willing to break the rules when he's pushed to the edge, which is Frollo's darkest moment, where he puts the family under house arrest and then lights the house on fire, which is like, that was the one for a Disney movie. Again, my wife was like, oh my gosh, like, they just do that?
We're going dark.
We're going to burn this family alive in their house, and then, the only reason why they could put it in the movie is because that's where Phoebus decides to break the rules and says, like, I won't stand for this. He goes in and saves the family, but now he's outcast from the police, from the guards, because, well, you disobeyed the state. Yeah,
and now under arrest and becomes one of the criminals. And so he makes his Christ sacrifice. Yeah. So he goes from a place of power and authority and relinquishes it all to descend into this burning underworld and rescue the captives, right? Which is what in this, because this whole thing takes place in the Christian mythology, and that is the ultimate good that you can do. Yeah. And it's an inversion of the social order. So like Jesus's whole thing is like upside down, is on the night, the afternoon before he was captured, he's washing his servants' feet, and they're going, don't do this. You're about to be like the next great political power. You're about to, and Phoebus is the captain. There's only one guy over him. Yep. And anyway, it's that inversion. And so Phoebus demonstrates that and then is arrested. So he represents good that sort of reaches the maximum good it can do within the law. And then he And he submits himself to the law.
Yeah.
He does escape, though, right? He does.
Well, I mean, he does, but then I think that's what happens is like you pursue the good, and if you're honest and faithful with that, it eventually is restored to him when the tyrant is overthrown in that scene. The one other character who is interesting, he's not a very big character in this, the character who represents the church, the priest, he kind of comes in and out, and he's got an interesting relationship with Frollo because Frollo wants to use he's the tyrant of the state. He wants to use the church for his means, and he's not opposed to it, but it's a tool for him. And there's a handful of scenes where the priest kind of chases him off, and the priest is kind of impotent and doesn't really have a bunch of gravitas to him. But I just noticed the relationship between those two characters says something about the church versus the state and how those interplay.
Yeah, and that even Frollo, well, that's another place where Frollo oversteps, where the evil transcends his lawful bent. It was when he throws the priest down and goes up to go murder.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, now you really crossed the line.
Right.
Because that priest and his sandals and everything, you know, like he totally is, on that like law and chaos, good and evil. Like the priest is just all good in this movie.
Yep.
And he'll go between chaos and law as much as he needs to because he's good. Yeah. And you don't get to trump good.
Yeah, exactly. Well, one other kind of fun note I heard on like this good versus evil dynamic, which definitely plays out in this movie. I've mentioned this guy a couple times, but is a content creator on TikTok and I'm sure on Instagram and some of those. But this guy Brett Bowles, he does like music theory breakdowns of all this, and he talked about how the song "Heaven's Light" is that Quasimodo sings. It's the light version of it's put in a major key, and then they take the orchestration of that song and they shift it to a minor key, and that's Hellfire. So you get these like dark versus light orchestrations. Also, side note, Alan Menken that said like this is the best score he's ever done. He got to play in these rich like church music history of all of it, and it's his favorite. Also, I tend to agree. I think that the music in this is great.
Well, the music is stupendous in this,
and so much deep kind of storytelling in this. If you get a chance to check out this guy's page, there's a couple of reels he's got which go into just the storytelling of the music and how the theory plays out and how it tells this story of who is the monster, who is the man. It's fun if you're into that stuff.
Yeah, no, definitely check that out. And the music in this is definitely like a guilty pleasure. And when Clopin hits that like high note in the, I always like crank the volume up a little bit, just like get my little goosebumps and then turn it back down again.
Yeah,
it's really stellar. And the villain comeuppance.
Yeah.
In this is, you wanted to talk about that. Go ahead and dive into that.
Well, so I mean, like many stories, Frollo is cast into the fire. The state is burning. Everything, if I remember right, he gets cast off of the top of the church into the fire of the city that's burning. So there's a lake of fire being cast into thing. We've talked about that with other characters. The fact it's at the top of the church that Quasimodo has learned how to scale and climb up and climb down with ease. There's a competency he has Frollo doesn't have that he ends up that he falls off into.
Yeah,
there's
competency that is the result of his imprisonment.
Yes. Yeah, well, it's a result of his imprisonment, but it's also a like, I guess I kind of see it as like there's a real skill, there's a real like tactile skill that he's developed, whereas Frollo's only ability is just to be able to like wield power and boss people around.
Yeah. And so this, coming back to the themes of this mythology is, there's something that Christ says to Peter when he first he like tells these guys to bring swords.
Yeah.
And then says, okay, that's enough swords. And then once they have the swords, Peter actually uses the sword. It's like, well, you told him to bring it. What's he supposed to do with it? Just sort of like lean on it. So he uses it. And then he's like, hey, if you live by the sword, you'll die by the sword. And then another thing is, judge not lest ye be judged.
Yeah.
And then, let those without sin cast the first stone. So he's not saying you can't throw stones.
Right.
He's just saying you better not have any sin to do it. And he's not saying don't swing swords. He just says be ready for the consequence of swinging
which is
swinging
all
swords.
of Frollo's transgressions over this whole thing. Is he is breaking all those rules, right? And what does it result in? It results in Paris on fire, which is what a tyrant does. What their demise is. It not only ends them. I mean, it was people make Hitler references all the time. His tyranny amounted to Germany being decimated and on fire and him being pulled away into that. That in a small sense is what happens to Frollo.
Right. And so he judges, he's so concerned with other people's damnation. Mm-hmm. And again, it's like, hey, it says judge not lest ye be judged. So go ahead and judge. And then just be ready for your judgment if that's how you want to play the game. And that is how Frollo wants to play the game. So he gets exactly what he wants. Mm-hmm. He immolates the church because he hates that priest. Yeah. He burns Paris because ultimately he hates Paris because gypsies are a part of Paris and he hates them. Yeah. So he gets everything he wants, and then he also gets what he has been sowing. And so he also, in that when the gargoyle turns into that demon, and we talk again about that the duality of the law versus the spirit. Again, the spirit's great. Oh, it's so happy and free. Yeah. It comes with angels. Yeah. Well, it also comes with demons. And so if Frollo has been over here in law land and word land this whole time, and now the spirit, it's that pendulum. The spirit shows up and goes like, hey, there's demons over here in the spirit as well. And that's what he gets. And it just rockets him, comes off, and it's like taunting all the way to his fiery grave. So it's pretty definitive, that ending.
Well, it's pretty definitive, and there's a lot to it we just unpacked. Again, we keep saying it, just Frollo is such a sinister character, such a sinister villain. And speaking of, like, as we look at modern Disney, there's a lot of stuff in this that could not be made. I don't think you could do a villain that's sinister. I don't think who's just got that level of malevolence to him.
Yeah. Such an body shame Quasimodo.
No, right, exactly. But also, like, that's what makes his like, who is the monster, who is the man? Like that surface level thing opens the door for so many deeper things there. Yeah. Which just shows, if you're not even allowed to talk about those ideas, it means you're also not allowed to have this transcendent lesson. Like, you're not allowed to grapple with these thoughts. Right. Like, oh, there's no such thing as monsters. Well, then there's no such thing as men either. Yeah, right. Well, I Quasimodo's song, Heaven's Light, he sings like, Esmeralda showed me attention. She treated me like a human because I feel like such a monster. I've been told I'm such a monster, all these things, right? It's this glimmer of light from the gypsy, from the one who's supposed to be transgressive, becomes this healing force for him as he starts seeing there's something outside of just the cruel tyranny of Frollo locking me away here. Yeah. So, like, cool. And that's that inversion again. It's that upside down kingdom that is part of the Christian mythology. Right. And same with Esmeralda's, her great song where she comes in and looks at the stained glass where and she's making this appeal to grace. And grace is, again, in this mythology, grace is one of the unique qualities of the Christian mythology versus all the other mythologies. Right. And she's making that appeal where she's going like, I know that you were an outcast, that you went from the highest to the lowest and then from the lowest back to the highest. And where do I fit in that? And yeah. Very cool. Which is, I know, not since. Are there any other Disney movies that are as explicitly Judeo-Christian? I mean, it's all centered around a cathedral. And this one, I mean, Hercules is, which we talked about in our episode on that, is just straight up like a Jesus story, the way it plays out. Sure. Right. But it's not the setting of it. It's set in Olympus and Greek mythology. You don't experience Hunchback of Notre Dame as a preachy Christian movie. It just happens to be the world in which it happens. Well, and like some of the stuff we're getting into, there's a lot of depth and a lot of character stuff and a lot of what's the nature of humanity, and this who is the monster, who is the man theme fits in that whole world, and grace versus law. That's inherent to that Judeo-Christian mythos. Yeah. So, but to me, it's, I think, when in a time where we've shied away from telling stories that just kind of fit from that framework, those are the things that have been lost. Yeah.
Yeah, the idea that you can have transgressions that require grace to recover from, the idea that you can be so evil and unrepentant that you deserve judgment. The themes in there are we don't see as much lately.
Sure. But I mean, they're there. And this one was fun. It doesn't, I see why it wasn't on the same tier as like your Aladdins and Lion Kings and Beauty and the Beast and stuff that really like remains timeless and has all the Disney park stuff that comes up with now, like why Quasimodo and those aren't quite on the same level. Like we didn't even get into the gargoyles today. There's some fun symbolism that we could get into with that, but it does feel like they're kind of like shoehorned in there as kind of some fun characters on the side. So it's not like, I don't consider it as like a perfect story, but I did like it. We kind of talked when we did Prince of Egypt, you know, the themes of these explicit Christian mythos, but also how dark it gets into the nature of humanity and sin. Like some people might judge this. I actually think it's a really good message. It's a good place for your kids to learn about these kind of dark realities of the world in a way that's age appropriate.
Yeah. And I don't think there's a way to play in the Christian world like framing without getting your hands dirty. And even
if you're going to get into the nature of evil, it's in every human heart. Like Frollo, that's what it looks like.
Yeah. And it's useful because yes, there are monsters out there. And the worst one is the one that lives in me, you know? And what a fantastic place to set your story, the story of your life is, okay, let's set the ground rules. Like St. Paul says, of all the sinners, I'm the worst. I'm the one I need to be concerned about. And so when I work on that, now go out and have your adventure from that starting place. Instead of, there's no monsters. And just like Aliens, which we also did an episode on. They said that the monsters weren't real, but they are. And
why do they tell kids that? Right. What was the other quote I've heard? I don't remember who said it, but like people don't tell fairy tales to kids to teach them that there's dragons. Kids already know that there's dragons. They tell them to kids to show them that you can confront them, that you can, that dragons can be slain.
Yeah. And so this is a story where that definitely is evident. We see it.
Yeah. So this was fun. Have we decided what we're doing next?
No, we haven't. But man, everyone out there, do yourself a favor. Give this one another watch. If you've never seen it, you're in for a treat. If you have, watch it again with new eyes. Look for some of these themes. And there's a bunch of stuff we left on the table. We didn't talk about the other dynamics. We didn't talk about excellent dialogue, great banter, superb performances.
Yeah.
Kevin Kline's fantastic. Demi Moore is awesome in this.
Yeah.
All the way through.
Jason Alexander is the gargoyle. He's a fun side buddy.
Yeah. He was totally like, especially at that time when he was huge. On TV, it could have easily been seen as just sort of stunt casting, but he's such a good performer that
it works. Yeah,
a kid who encounters him now is going to love that. Of course, his name is Hugo. But get out there and check it out.
Cool. Hey, we'll see you next time.
Like and subscribe to join us for some navel gazing and occasionally super insightful depth in analyzing kids' movies and the occasional dad's night out.